What's up, it's Ryan Trey. You're watching Hot New Hip Hop, and this is On the Come Up. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. I also spent a little bit of my life in DC, but St. Louis is my home. I was in DC, I'm 22, and really it was kind of half and half as far as being in DC and St. Louis, but my family is from St. Louis. You know, I spent my high school years in St. Louis, so I consider that's where I grew up the most. I think it's split up as far as how each city influenced me. DC was more of the culture as far as the way you dress, the go-go, you know, the different type of styles of music they have there, and just the city in general. St. Louis was more so the personal experiences I had with different girls, different people I was meeting at schools, different trouble I was getting into. But yeah, I think they go hand in hand as far as, you know, making me the artist I am today. As far as navigating the music scene, I really didn't start making music until I was in St. Louis. I think I just kind of brought some of those experiences from the DMV with me. But I was just in the studio with my boy, like my best friend, and I was just writing stories based on what I knew as far as different relationships I've been in, different exes I've been with, and just the city, that nighttime feel that St. Louis has. That's kind of what I based my music around. Definitely, I think the first thing you need to do when you get to St. Louis is the Cardinals games. You know, that's a very popular baseball team, and we win a lot. So, you know, everybody's outside, it's live outside, you know, for hours from the start of the day to all the way to the next morning. So definitely the Cardinals games. For me, growing up, I think I had a pretty tight-knit family. You know, we moved back and forth a lot from St. Louis to DC and then St. Louis again. So really, it was just me, my parents, and my sister. I think one of the coolest things about, you know, it just being us four for the most part was the music is something that got soaked in a lot from my parents, different things they would play on the road, you know, on the different plane rides back and forth to each city. So just that R&B and rap that my dad and mom played while I was growing up, you know, that was cool because that really helped me mold my sound, you know, today. So some artists I was growing up on, definitely Lauryn Hill. That was probably like my first love with music. Alicia Keys, Tupac, and then just getting into the 2010s, you know, it was like Kanye's, the Jay-Z's, then the Drakes, and then so forth. As far as R&B, it was like the Party Next Doors, Weekends, but it started off real soulful with all the old school hip hop and R&B that, you know, your parents probably grew up on too. So yeah, definitely like everything from like when I was born to now, like all those sounds my parents still play, they keep up. I think the music that I discovered on my own coming up that played a big part as far as inspiring me was definitely the live mixtape, that Piff era. So, you know, I was coming up on like when Lil Wayne was dropping his mixtapes. I had Mac Miller was dropping his mixtapes. Then like on the R&B side, like I mentioned, like Party Next Door, The Weeknd, that dark, you know, Mystique vibe started getting in play. And I think the main person I'd have to say is probably Thug. I think when Thug was coming up, like, you know, people had to feel him out first before they really started vibing with him. And like, you know, Thug was big too. Yeah, Thug and Future. I have friends that we would just go to each other's house and would just be freestyling and making beats and certain things. Like I could always write. You know, I wasn't really attracted to school like that. So, you know, in class, I would just be writing and like different things. But the first time I ever got behind a beat was me and my friends just joking around. I think after they heard like how I sounded, they kind of told me like, yo, you got to take this seriously. So one of my homeboys introduced me to who is now my engineer. And that helped me like record my first songs, build my first project. So it's really one of my teammates that I hoop with. That's actually my best friend. So yeah, they gave me the game. So if I wasn't doing music, I mean, it would just be sports, really. I was always athletic. I'm still athletic, like hooping, something I did a lot. You know, I wanted to go to college for it. And actually, the summer I was supposed to go to college for basketball, I ended up going the music route, specifically because I didn't like school. So I was like, man, I gotta figure something out because I want to hoop, but I just don't, you know, my attention span is short with things I don't really love. So in that little gap I had before the next school year started, I started making music and it ended up, you know, taking the turn for the better. It was around Christmas time. We had a Christmas game, and I think I dropped like 35, 34 in my high school game. Yeah, and my girl was in the crowd, so you know, it's like it was a good look. Yeah, I mean, growing up in St. Louis, you know, my parents they don't really want me moving anywhere at night in that city. You know, it's a very dangerous city. So I was probably 18 at the time, and this is the first time I'm going to link with my guy Corey, who my friend introduced me to, who's now my engineer. So he had like this studio off in the woods, like ducked off somewhere. Yeah, it was super creepy, bro. So I'm like pulling up by myself. I get in there. I like it was some YouTube beat I had. I ended up buying like the track outs on YouTube, and I brought them in, and like that, it was the first song I recorded. And when I went in the booth after I came out, Corey was just kind of like, he was like, yo, like, I'm not gonna charge you. Like, I'm not gonna ever charge you. Like, let's just get in, like, let's just work. Like, you know, this is something new that I'm hearing that I haven't heard in the city. I've been recording people for, you know, a decade. So, you know, and that was touching to me, because it was like, damn, this is somebody who believes in me. I just came in here with one record. So from there, me and him just started building from scratch, you know, like learning new flows, learning how to get on the beat the right way, you know, like hooks, verses, like, you know, I was just in there all day practicing, to the point where my senior year, I like started skipping school the second semester just so I could finish this project I have called August that I put out 2.5 years ago. And now I'm still working with him to this day, about to put out this new project. I think it's weird because as far as how my music's progressed from that time, I think I was just a lot more innocent. Like, the music I was writing about was coming off a heartbreak. I got done like super dirty by this girl I was with for a long time. And then, yeah, we was dating in DC. And then when I got to St. Louis, it was like this long distance thing, didn't work out or whatever. Yeah, you already know the deal, bro. So I was just in a place where I was trying to get my stories off in like the most polite way possible, you know, without like disrespecting anyone or saying how I really feel. Like, so I think now, hearing my sound now, I think it's a lot more toxic, and it's a lot more, you can hear a lot more like the vulnerability. Like, I don't think twice when I get behind the mic. Like, I just say whatever I'm feeling. I don't care whose feelings it hurts or, you know, who hears anything. I'm just saying what it is. So yeah, I think that's the biggest, you know, part of my progression, is that maturity and just the honesty. I definitely feel like I connect with people more now. And I think what helped me get to that point as far as writing music was hearing other artists, especially the women in like R&B and rap now. And like, you know, there's like this sound out right now where they just don't care. So they're saying anything that's on their mind. I think it's good for the culture. So like, I think Summer Walker is a good example of someone who's just very vulnerable. Drake's always a good example. SZA, you know, as I started hearing their records, it was like, okay, I can take pieces from this and just be myself. Bryson Tiller is a good person, you know, as far as just saying the first thing that comes to their mind. So I think the first record that really made me feel like I had accomplished something was this record called Mutual Butterflies that I did on my August project. Yeah, that's the record that kind of lifted me off the ground and pushed me through the door, introduced me to my management, you know, introduced me to like my first feature with Bryson Tiller, and kind of like put the first set of eyes on me and started my first core fan base. It was like that lo-fi rap R&B that I had going. And that record was just about, you know, a breakup, like my first way of writing about a breakup. So that'll always be like a special record. I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't fully in love with the process of making music when I first started. I think it was more so because I know what sound I wanted. I just didn't know how to get there, you know? So a lot of times when I was making music, I was just frustrated that I didn't know. There were certain things I could do with my voice now that I could not do when I first started. Like my pen is a lot sharper now. Like, you know, when I first started, it was more so like, I know I'm talented, but it was just like, okay, how do I execute it the right way? So yeah, but over time, you know, it's just flawless to me. Like, getting in the studio is like all I do. Like I bleed this, you know what I'm saying? So I love the process now, like, you know, what it takes to make a song. When it started to feel like a career for me was when I started meeting like my idols and getting like that verbal cosign from them and like that mental confirmation. I think one of the biggest cosigns like LeBron. Like I think like in 2019, I just ran into him and Rich Paul because they were playing my music some months before. I ended up going to this birthday party with my homeboy, and we just ran into him, and like he just gave me this talk like, yo, you're dope, just keep going, don't stop, like you're young, just focus. And like to hear that from people like him that I looked up to in sports, and then to hear that from like different artists, you know, that I looked up to, that I was introduced to through my music, it just gave me that confidence, like, okay, these greats, you know, are telling me like I'm dope, you know, like, so I think that was the biggest thing that kind of made me feel like, okay, like there's no reason I should be second guessing myself, like ever. The things I need in the studio to help me get to, you know, where I want to be as far as making these records is first and foremost the color of the lights in the room. You know, it's just like certain colors don't hit the same depending on the record, you know, so I think that's a mood change. I think I even like scientifically, that's like a theme neurologically, like, you know, like that plays a part in like, you know, your mood. So just setting that type of vibe. I always need candles lit. And really, I just like me and my engineer, Corey. I really don't like anybody else in the studio. I think only now, after I just finished this most recent project, I'm having like my homies come in every now and then. Like I'll have friends come in, my manager come in and out, but most of the time it's really just me and him. And I think the biggest thing is like the phones, like they gotta be on Do Not Disturb. You know, I feel like Instagram and social media, all that can kind of take you out that element. Just being in the studio gotta feel like you're in like a spaceship, you know? I think one of the things fans attach to when they listen to my sound is really like you said, it's a vulnerability, but I think it's the way I express it. As far as a lot of these records, especially these new ones that I have, I'm coming from like the bad guy approach, like the villain, you know, in the relationship. Like a lot of R&B that I grew up on was like either someone was hurt or they were talking about how much they love someone, you know, but like I think those records now that I have are very like from the bad guy standpoint, like the villain in the relationship. I think that's the coolest thing that I hear back from my fans. It's like, yo, like I always hear about the person that did me wrong, like I did wrong, and like you're actually talking about it. So, you know, that's cool. I think that's cool. Man, we be here all day. It will have to be Thug, Young Thug, #1. SSG Kobe, that's somebody that I really like. I was actually in touch with him not too long ago, and I think he's dope. He dropped a song called MIA that's just amazing. And I would have to say, that third one's hard. I would probably say anybody who has that the Detroit sound right now that's going on. Like, you know, I just love that. That sound is crazy. So I think anybody who's, you know, repping Detroit and got that sound going on. And Smino from my hometown. So, you know, he's dope too. So I think those are my top 3. I think my biggest song would have to be Nowhere to Run. It's a song I dropped, you know, a little bit over a year and a half ago with, I think it's on 2 years now with my guy, Bryson Tiller. He's one of the first artists to show me support. And I just think that record's really special just because, I never even told anybody this, but the second verse I did on that record, I was actually arguing with my management, like, yo, I don't want to do this second verse because like, I just don't know how I get on. I'm like 19, 20, just turning 20. So like, I'm still intimidated by getting on records with like, you know, legends, or like just beat. The beat is a Vinyls and Boy Wonder beat. I'm like, man, I gotta do this justice. I'm just not gonna do a second verse. And like me and my management was screaming in the kitchen in Miami, like, nah, we gotta do it. Just listen, you gotta believe in yourself. And I ended up going upstairs for like 20 minutes, cutting a verse and coming back down, and the record was done. And ended up, you know, pushing me, you know, to newer heights. So I think that's my favorite record, and I think my biggest record so far. My newest record I just dropped, It's About a Girl. I think that was one of the more challenging records that I've done because I'm still learning like how to use my voice in a bunch of different ways. And like, you know, there's sometimes the way you write records aren't necessarily the same way you can record them. So like I'll have voice memos that sound great, and when I get to the mic, it's a whole different feeling. So that was a song that I had for a while that I ended up bringing to the mic, and I had to just almost reset to get it to sound how I actually wanted it to sound. That was the first time I experienced something like that, but it came out great. And that's one of my, I think that's in my top 3 of my catalog. I would definitely say Rollin' is probably my favorite song to perform. I did some live performances that aren't out yet. Just trying different records, you know. Rollin' is one where it's just like, the hook is so captivating to me. And that's one of the records I love playing through loudspeakers. I just feel like that'd be a dope record to perform. When you have your fans come up to you and say, oh, this got me through this, or this was crazy, or this part of the song made me cry, or made me mad, or like whatever, you know, it's always interesting because everybody's story is different. And it just reminds me of myself with my favorite artists. Like, you know, there's a lot of people I've met so far, but I still go up to my favorite artists and be like, yo, this part made me feel like this, like as a fan, you know? So I think that's the coolest part, is that connection with your fans. I think the worst part about being an artist, to me personally, is I hate flying. Like, I think one of the goals I have in life is to come out with something that'll just like eliminate planes. I don't know if it's a teleportation, I don't know what it is, but like just that whole process of like security and all that, man. I'm just like, man, I gotta get a lot of money so I get a jet. Just definitely the travel. Like, and I think it's because I grew up traveling so much, just back and forth from the East Coast to the Midwest. I'm like tired of traveling, but I'm grateful. It's just like planes, man. That sucks. I definitely think connections. I'm just keeping it honest. I think there's a big difference between, and there's no knock on any artists that are super low key, but I just feel like there's a big positive to being outside, you know, being in the streets, seeing, you know, what's moving in the culture, what's moving in the industry, what's moving in your building, if you're signed, you know, like even if you're just on SoundCloud searching, like keeping up with everything. I think there's only a few artists that just have their eyes on everything, and it keeps that longevity. It's kind of like the LeBrons and like, you know, the Drakes and certain people that just like are always updated with what's going on. I feel like just don't sleep on anything. Like, I feel like that competitive edge you gotta have, knowing like somebody could take your spot. I think that'll always keep you just, you know, not getting comfortable. That's the biggest thing like I've learned. And I think how I punch through the ceiling is just keep doing exactly what I'm doing. You know, like I got that much confidence in myself. I know nobody sounds like me is doing what I'm doing. So, and I love everything that's out. Like, I love making music with other artists. So I think the biggest thing, if I had to critique myself, is just drop music. You know, that's it. There's a point in time where like I'm very like critical and surgical about what I want to put out, but it's like I'm in a place now where like after this new project drops too, like I just got a bunch of stuff I'm just dropping, like, you know. But I think just putting music out. Into 2021, this fall coming up, I got a new project dropping. It's called a 64-8 Saga, and it's basically based off of this long highway in St. Louis that you have to take to get to anywhere you want to go in that city. And I think that is kind of inspired by like all those late night drives people have on those highways in their hometown. Same way I have them. Different exits I take on that highway, going to see girls, going to see my guys, like going to different parties. That's basically what this whole project is about. Like I'm in this twilight zone between like what I knew from that city and all the new things I'm seeing. So I got that dropping in the fall. I got a bunch of other records dropping out with different artists. I won't say their names because I'm just excited for them to put it out when they put it out. And I got some dope features on this project too that I'm excited for. Videos and getting this tour geared up, man. Hopefully the doors stay open with this COVID, bro. I just need everything to stay open. But yeah, obviously I want to be one of the greatest. But I think if anything, if I had to walk away with anything, is I always want people to say he was different. You know, Ryan Trey was different. He did his own thing. He was never looking left or right. And I just want to be able to inspire whatever kids are coming up the same way I was inspired. Like I really, you know, took my favorite parts from all my favorite artists and made my own sound like most artists do, you know? So like, I just want to have that same, you know, feeling I can give to, you know, these kids coming up. That's basically it. Yo, what's up? It's Ryan Trey. I'll be opening up for my boy Jack Harlow on Stage 3 at the Sprite live stream show on August 18th. Your bottle is your ticket. Can't wait to see you.